It looks like we are streaming live now. I
Oh,
am very pleased to be talking with John Scully, author of our newly released Visited Mom Today, Conversations Through the Lens of Alzheimer's and Dementia. I am so pleased to be talking with you. How does it
thank
feel to
you.
release the book?
It feels really exciting and exhilarating, and I was up at 3:30 this morning. What can I tell you?
Go figure. Yeah, and the book is already, we just announced the release, and it's already a number 1 new release. So people, and it's been very exciting to see the social media response to this. People are they might be a little bit excited that the book
I
came
hope
out.
so. I hope so. I know I have a lot of people that are very excited, actually more than I am sometimes.
Well, sometimes, you've had people that are encouraging you to keep going and to share the stories. And I'd love
Right.
for you to tell a little bit about where the idea from this book came from. First of
Sure.
all, I think that our listeners would like to hear that.
Sure. Um, about 8 years ago, my mother, who was in a memory care unit, lost her ability to speak. And so I would go 2 to 3 times a week to visit for, an hour and a half or 2 hours. And I started to bring her to where other residents were gathering, the dining room, the, recreation room. And because I wanted her to be stimulated by the activity rather than just sit and hold her hand
Mhm.
and have a one-way conversation. And I started talking to some of the residents, and I found that because they had no filters, because they had this disease, their minds were in different places in the conversations. And so I just sort of stepped into their reality, knowing that they can't step into my reality, and had just these sweet, poignant uh, conversations that had wisdom and some, really sweet conversations. And I
Mm.
felt like I wanted to share them with people. So I posted a couple on Facebook, and I got this huge response. And within 2 or 3 posts, people said, you need to put these in a collection. You have to write a book and put it
Mhm.
in a collection. And that's how it all happened.
Mm. And I know this is a subject that is near and dear to my heart, with my both of my grandmothers having either Alzheimer's or dementia, and me being the caregiver of my grandma. Um, and it lands as really authentic and real, these conversations you had with these residents, right? And
Yeah.
it because I did realize with my grandma, I felt like I was using all my improv skills
Yes.
in the
Yes.
conversation of going, okay, she's, I've already had this conversation, like how do I do this in a different way, or
Right.
what is it like right now for her, and just kind of
Right.
moving into, this is what's happening now, here's how she's seeing it, how do I step
Mhm.
into that, versus trying to tell her the things that, like, repeating things over and
Right.
over again that she doesn't honestly need to know. It's not helpful for her
Right.
to hear that. So the way,
Exactly.
what I love about your stories, they're very short. It's a short, short and sweet stories and conversations. And some of them hit at the heart, right? Very
Hmm.
real. And a lot of them are hilarious. Like, I've read this book now, I don't know, like 20 times during the editing process. That's what happens. And I still found myself when I got the proof, I was like, how is this still hilarious to me? But they are. They're
I
very
know.
funny. Uh, so you did a really good job of capturing both that heart and some humor to keep it light too. So
Right. And I felt that the humor was the thing that I think was the first reason for doing it, because I just didn't think when my mother first went into the nursing home that there could be anything that was going to be good about this experience, that there was going to be any, light or lightness.
mm-hmm.
And when the humor things happened, I loved it. And I was like, people need to know that this is possible. This can happen. And so
Mm-hmm.
just putting the stories out there, the conversations out there, was proving it, that this can in fact happen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I get the sense of this idea that life is still happening. Even we think of Alzheimer's as the end, right? This is the end and then decline, but there's still life happening in the mix of this, and there's still
Right.
ways to access that. And we did talk before we got on that you shared that you want to make sure that people know that this is not the experience for everybody. Not everybody is reachable in that
Mhm.
time. And
Yeah.
so it's not like this is a magic fix that will work for every situation.
Right. So
Um,
I think that, it's part that my mother happened to be a really sweet, pleasant, calmer than she ever was in the rest of her life, um,
mm,
during this phase. And the reason why, the, I didn't talk to, there aren't any, conversations of somebody that's angry is because they aren't reachable. You can't, I couldn't, I would try on occasion, but you can't sit down with somebody who's not open to it.
mhm,
So yes, these are the experience that I had that I talk about in the book is really about people that are definitely reachable, probably
mhm,
less agitated, a little bit more, calm and friendly.
mhm,
But I think, you know, what I found really interesting about this too, when I thought about it, I went for, 13 years while my mother was there, probably 8 years of these kinds of conversations started. And I have like 40 real gems, real gifts. So when you think about the number of times you go, so I think it's also something that people need to know this doesn't happen every day.
mhm,
Um, but if you keep doing it, which I kept doing it, I had regular conversations. They were just in their reality, but they weren't like these nuggets, these really sweet little gifts. And that was okay to have those kinds of conversations because it kept my mother stimulated, me engaged with somebody to talk to, and they were also engaged in talking. But the gems, 40 and 8 years, it doesn't happen all the time.
mhm. What is advice that you have for someone who, say, their family member has just received an Alzheimer's or dementia diagnosis, or what is your advice for people in this situation?
Yeah, I think that you need to really get a support group, whether it's your family, whether it's friends, um, and I think really talk about what could possibly happen down the road with the
Mhm,
person who's been diagnosed so that everybody is on the same page about what needs to happen. I also think that the Alzheimer's Association, the Connecticut chapter, is an amazing resource for people who have a loved one who is going through this and for a family that's going through it. And I would also say that as time goes on, now we did this for 13 years, which was a very long time, um, that I was fortunate. I had five siblings. We all were able to share some of the responsibility of her care. But for people who are going through this, sometimes you need a break away, from it. Even if you're home, to just not go for a week or two,
mhm,
to just sort of recharge, because it's a very sad, upsetting thing to watch. And so
mhm,
I would say to people, give yourself a break, take some time when you need it, recharge, wait till your head is in a better place, and then go back at it. But again, I was fortunate because usually when one of us was feeling down, the others were in a better place and could kind
mm,
of, take the slack. Um, and I would also say, rest because, you need the strength to kind of get through it. And also try to find some fun things to do.
mhm. Great advice. Great advice. What is your hope for this book? Where do you hope it goes to?
Well, first of all, a portion of the proceeds are going to go to the Alzheimer's Association or other Alzheimer's organizations, which, was really the motivator for me to try and, take the next step to make this happen. Um, but what I'd really like to know and hope is that after somebody reads the conversations, if they're going through this, that they will understand that they can spend less time mourning the person they're losing
Mm,
and more time embracing, accepting, and loving the person they have. And, because there's still, at least in our experience and in the experience of the people I spoke with, there was always their essence there. The difficult people is a different story, but
Mhm.
with my mother, even on the last day that she was awake, she smiled and her eyes lit up when I, was hugging her and stuff. So
Mhm.
her essence was still there. So to not lose that,
Mhm.
would be what I hope.
Mm. It's lovely. Yeah.
Yeah.
You got me crying, John. Oh my goodness.
Oh, I should have brought tissues. Hand them through.
Tissues, tissues, and tissues.
Yeah.
Uh, anything else you want to share with our listeners today?
I think, I think that I want to, I'd love to hear back from people, to get some feedback to what people are thinking and hearing. I would also hope that maybe I have an email address in the book that if people are looking for resources or any kind of advice on going through this, that people would feel free to contact me. It's visitedmomtoday@gmail.com. And, that would really be my hope is I really, for going through this, and going through this process, I really hope that it makes a difference. And those are some of the ways that I hope it does.
Thank you so much for everything that you've done to
Thank
bring this book
you.
out into the world. And thank you for taking the time today to share it with others.
Thank you so much. And thank you for all your help. You took a chance on a first time author, and I think we did well.
I think so too.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Elizabeth.
Bye.